I took the ranger job at Pinewood National Forest because I needed to disappear after what happened in Denver, after the internal investigation, after my name was dragged through every news outlet in Colorado. I needed somewhere remote, somewhere nobody would recognize me, somewhere I could start over. Pinewood seemed perfect. 200,000 acres of wilderness in northern Wyoming. Population of the ranger station, 4 people, nearest town, 40 miles away. The kind of place where you could go days without seeing another human being. They hired me in late March, right as winter was ending, and the park was preparing to reopen for the season. My supervisor was a man named Frank Patterson, 60 years old, with the weathered face of someone who had spent his entire life outdoors. On my first day, he took me into his office and closed the door. Before you start patrol, there are some things you need to know about this park. He pulled out a folder from his desk drawer. Inside was a single sheet of paper with typed instructions. Rules for park rangers. Pinewood National Forest. Rule 1. Never patrol alone after dark. Always have a partner within radio distance. Rule 2. If you find camping equipment abandoned with food still in coolers, do not touch anything. Mark the location and report immediately. Rule 3. The area around Whispering Falls is off limits between sunset and sunrise. No exceptions. Rule 4. If you encounter anyone wearing all white clothing on the trails, maintain distance and monitor their movements. Rule 5. Do not investigate reports of children's laughter coming from the old campground near Echo Lake. And then I saw Rule 6, the one that made my hands go cold. Rule 6. If you encounter a woman crying on the trails, do not approach her. Do not offer assistance. Do not make eye contact. Return to your vehicle immediately and report the sighting. I looked up at Frank. What is this? Some kind of hazing ritual? His expression was dead serious. I wish it was. These rules have been in place since 1978. They were written by the previous head ranger after we lost 3 rangers in 2 months. Lost them how? Different ways, but all 3 of them broke Rule 6. All 3 of them tried to help the crying woman. He leaned back in his chair. Her name was Rebecca Marsh, at least. That's who we think she was. In 1976, a woman matching that description went hiking in this park with her husband. They had an argument on the trail near Whispering Falls. According to the husband, she ran off into the forest. He searched for hours, then reported her missing. Did you find her? We found her body 3 weeks later, 5 miles from where she disappeared. She'd fallen into a ravine, broken neck. The medical examiner said she died instantly. But here's the thing. Frank pulled out a photograph from the folder. A crime scene photo showing a woman's body at the bottom of a rocky ravine. Her neck was twisted at an impossible angle, but her eyes were open, staring up at nothing. 2 months after we buried Rebecca Marsh, rangers started reporting sightings. A woman on the trails, always alone, always crying, always in the same area where Rebecca went missing. At first we thought it was just grief. Someone who looked like her. Someone the rangers' minds created because of the tragedy. But then, Ranger Tom Wilson tried to help her. He radioed that he'd found a distressed woman near Whispering Falls, that she was crying and asking for help finding her husband. He approached her, tried to assist her. We found his body 2 days later, in the same ravine where Rebecca died. Same broken neck, same open eyes, staring at nothing, same impossible angle. That's just a coincidence. That's what Ranger Sarah Chen said. She was a skeptic. Didn't believe in ghosts or curses or any of it. In 1978, she encountered the crying woman, radioed it in, then decided to approach anyway because, in her words, she wasn't going to let superstition stop her from doing her job. What happened? We found her vehicle, abandoned near Whispering Falls. Door open, engine running, radio still on, but no Sarah. We searched for 3 weeks, brought in dogs, helicopters, volunteer search teams, nothing. Then a hiker found her body 6 months later. Same ravine, same broken neck, same everything. This doesn't make sense. How can the same accident happen 3 times? That's the question, isn't it? Frank closed the folder. Since 1978, we've had 37 confirmed sightings of the crying woman. Every ranger who approaches her dies. Every single one. So we made it a rule. You see her, you walk away. You hear her, you ignore it. You do not, under any circumstances, try to help her. I started my first solo patrol. 3 days later, the park was beautiful in early spring. Snow still capped the distant peaks, but the valleys were coming alive with wildflowers and new growth. The trails were empty, too early in the season for tourists. Just me and the forest, and the sound of wind through the pines. At 2 p.m., I stopped at Whispering Falls to check the trail conditions. The waterfall was impressive, a 100-foot cascade that filled the air with mist and the constant roar of falling water. The trail here ran along the edge of a deep ravine, the same ravine where Rebecca Marsh had died, where 3 rangers had died, where, according to Frank, the crying woman appeared. I stood at the overlook, looking down at the rocks below. The ravine was steep, easily 70 feet deep. Anyone who fell from here wouldn't survive. The rocks at the bottom were jagged and unforgiving. That's when I heard it, crying, soft and distant, coming from somewhere on the trail behind me. I turned around, saw nothing but empty trail winding through the forest. The crying continued, a woman's voice, heartbroken, desperate, the kind of crying that comes from deep grief. I grabbed my radio. Ranger Patterson. This is Ranger Collins. I've got a possible distressed hiker at Whispering Falls, requesting guidance. Static. Then Frank's voice, tight with tension. Can you see the individual? Negative. I can only hear crying. Distance. Hard to say. Maybe 100 yards up the trail. Do not approach. I repeat, do not approach. Return to your vehicle and leave the area immediately. But sir, if there's someone in distress, that's an order. Collins, leave now. I looked up the trail. The crying was getting louder, closer, and now I could hear words between the sobs. Please help me. I can't find him. I can't find my husband. Please. Every instinct I had as a former cop screamed at me to investigate. Someone was in trouble. Someone needed help. That was the job. That was what I was trained to do. But Frank's voice on the radio was absolute. Leave the area now. I walked back to my truck, hands shaking, got in, and started the engine. The crying was right next to my vehicle now, so close I could hear breathing between the sobs. I looked in my rearview mirror, and I saw her standing on the trail behind my truck. A woman in her 30s, wearing a light blue jacket and jeans. Her face was streaked with tears. Her hair was disheveled. She looked exactly like someone who'd been lost in the forest for hours. She made eye contact with me through the mirror, and she smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It wasn't even a sad smile. It was the smile of something that had been waiting a very long time for someone to finally see it, to finally acknowledge it. I floored the accelerator and drove away. Didn't stop until I reached the ranger station 5 miles away. Frank was waiting in the parking lot. His face was pale. You saw her? I nodded, unable to speak. Did you approach her? No, I followed protocol. Good. He exhaled slowly. You're the first ranger in 3 years to encounter her and follow the rules. Most people can't resist. Most people have to help. That's what makes her so dangerous. She knows exactly what to say, exactly how to look, exactly how to make you break protocol. What is she? A ghost? I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe she's something else. Something older. Something that wears Rebecca Marsh's face. Because that's what works. That's what makes rangers stop and help. Over the next 2 months, I saw the crying woman 4 more times. Always near Whispering Falls. Always crying. Always asking for help finding her husband. And every time, I followed protocol. I turned around. I left the area. I reported the sighting, but the encounters were getting worse. She was appearing in other locations. Near Echo Lake, on the trail to Summit Ridge. Even once in the parking lot of the ranger station, standing under a streetlight at 3 a.m., crying and staring up at the windows of our barracks. Other rangers were seeing her too. Ranger Michelle Torres reported an encounter on the North Trail. Ranger David Kim saw her near the old campground. Everyone followed protocol. Everyone walked away. But she was becoming more persistent, more aggressive. On June 15th, we got a call from a hiker, distressed woman, on the trail near Whispering Falls, crying, asking for help. Says she's lost her husband. I took the call with Ranger Torres as my partner. We drove to Whispering Falls, both of us knowing exactly what we would find. She was standing on the trail, same blue jacket, same tear-streaked face, same desperate expression. But this time, there was a real hiker with her, a man in his 20s, wearing a backpack and hiking boots. He was trying to comfort her. Ma'am, I can help you find your husband. Just tell me where you last saw him. The hiker put his hand on her shoulder. I grabbed my radio. Sir, step away from that woman right now. The hiker turned to look at me, confused. What? She needs help. She's been out here for hours looking for her husband. That's not a real person. Step away from her immediately. The woman turned to look at me, and her face changed. The crying stopped. The desperate expression melted away, and what was underneath was something cold, ancient, hungry. You can't save him. Her voice was different now, deeper, older, layered with harmonics that didn't sound human. He touched me. He showed compassion. He's mine now. The hiker tried to pull away. but his hand was stuck to her shoulder, like her skin had become adhesive. He pulled harder, panic rising in his eyes. I can't let go. I can't. Oh God, I can't let go. Ranger Torres and I rushed forward, grabbed the hiker, and tried to pull him free. But the woman's grip was impossible. She wasn't moving, wasn't straining, just standing there with that cold smile while we pulled with all our strength. Then she started walking toward the edge of the ravine, dragging the hiker with her. He was screaming now, clawing at her arm, fighting with everything he had, but she was immovable, unstoppable. She reached the edge of the overlook, looked back at us one final time, and then she stepped off, fell 70 feet to the rocks below. Taking the hiker with her, we called for rescue, called for backup, called for everyone we could think of. The recovery team rappelled into the ravine 2 hours later. They found 2 bodies. The hiker, neck broken, eyes open, staring at nothing, and the woman in the blue jacket, same condition, same broken neck, same open eyes. But here's what made everyone go silent. When they checked her identification, when they ran her fingerprints, they confirmed what we already suspected. It was Rebecca Marsh, the same woman who died in 1976. The same woman who'd been buried in the town cemetery 47 years ago. The same woman whose grave we checked the next day and found undisturbed. Her remains still in the coffin. How is that possible? Ranger Torres asked. How can she be in 2 places at once? Frank didn't have an answer. Nobody did. We filed the incident report, called it a tragic accident. Said the hiker fell while trying to assist a distressed woman. Didn't mention the impossible nature of her identity. Didn't mention that she'd been dead for 47 years before she killed again. But it got worse, because 3 days later, rangers started reporting new sightings. Not just the crying woman, now there were 2 of them. Rebecca Marsh in her blue jacket, and the hiker who died trying to help her. Both of them crying on the trails. Both of them asking for help. Both of them waiting for someone compassionate enough to break the rules. I requested a transfer. Frank approved it immediately. He understood. Once you see what the crying woman really is, once you understand that compassion itself can be weaponized, you can't keep working in that park. I left Pinewood National Forest in late June. Took a job at a state park in Oregon, somewhere flat, somewhere without ravines or waterfalls or crying women who've been dead for 47 years. But Frank calls me every few months with updates. Updates I don't want but feel obligated to hear. In August, a volunteer search and rescue worker approached the crying woman. Found dead in the ravine, broken neck, open eyes. In September, a park maintenance worker tried to help. Found dead in the ravine, broken neck, open eyes. In October, a wildlife photographer got too close. Found dead in the ravine, broken neck, open eyes. And now, according to Frank's last call, 3 days ago, there are 5 of them. 5 figures crying on the trails. Rebecca Marsh, the hiker, the search and rescue volunteer, the maintenance worker, the photographer. All of them asking for help. All of them waiting for someone kind enough, compassionate enough, human enough to approach. The park tried to close that section, put up barriers and warning signs. But people climb over. People ignore warnings. People see someone in distress, and every decent instinct tells them to help. And that's what makes it so perfect. That's what makes it so effective. Because the rules we're taught from childhood, the values we're raised with, the basic human decency we're supposed to embody, those are the very things that make us vulnerable. Be kind. Help others. Show compassion. These aren't just nice sentiments. They're survival instincts for social species. They're what make us human, and something in Pinewood National Forest learned how to exploit that. Learned how to turn our best qualities into weapons against us. I still think about that hiker, 23 years old. His whole life ahead of him. He saw someone crying, and his first instinct was to help. That's not weakness. That's not stupidity. That's humanity. That's what we're supposed to do. But in Pinewood National Forest, humanity gets you killed. Last week, I got another call from Frank. His voice was shaking. We've got a problem. A bad problem. What happened? There are 12 of them now. 12 crying figures on the trails, and they're spreading. We've had sightings at Echo Lake, at Summit Ridge, at locations all over the park. They're not staying near Whispering Falls anymore. They're everywhere. Has anyone else died? 5 more in the last 3 months. 2 hikers, 1 ranger, 2 park visitors. All of them tried to help. All of them found in ravines throughout the park. All of them with broken necks and open eyes. And all of them, Frank paused, all of them are appearing now, walking the trails, crying, asking for help. 17 of them. 17 crying figures spreading through 200,000 acres of Wilderness. How do you warn visitors about that? How do you put up enough signs? How do you stop well-meaning people from doing what good people are supposed to do? The Park Service is talking about closing Pinewood permanently, but Frank doesn't think that will help. He thinks closing the park will just trap them there, concentrate them, make them hungry, make them desperate, and eventually they'll spread beyond the boundaries, into the surrounding forests, into the nearby towns, into the world. I asked him what the plan was. He said there isn't one. You can't fight something like this. You can't arrest it, or reason with it, or even understand it. You can only avoid it. Follow the rules. Resist your instincts. Walk away from people in distress. But that goes against everything we are. Everything we're taught. Everything that makes us human. And that's exactly the point. I haven't been back to Pinewood. Haven't even driven close to Wyoming. But I think about it constantly. Think about Rebecca Marsh walking those trails. About the 17 people who died trying to help her. About the rules that say, ignore suffering because compassion equals death. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice. If I should have helped that first woman I saw. If I should have broken protocol and offered assistance even knowing the risk. Because what kind of person am I? If I can walk past someone crying and do nothing. What kind of ranger? What kind of human? But then I remember her smile. That cold, ancient, hungry smile she gave me through my rearview mirror. And I know she wasn't Rebecca Marsh. She wasn't human at all. She was something else, wearing the shape of our compassion, using our decency as a lure. Last night, I woke up at 3 a.m. to a sound outside my ranger station here in Oregon, crying, soft and distant, a woman's voice, heartbroken, desperate. I looked out my window, saw nothing but empty forest. The crying continued, getting closer, and then I heard words. Please help me, I'm lost. I can't find my way. Please. I grabbed my radio, called the head ranger, told him what I was hearing. He said he'd send backup, said to stay inside, said to follow protocol, but the crying is right outside my door now, so close I can hear breathing between the sobs, and when I look through the peephole, I see her, blue jacket, tear-streaked face, desperate expression. She's knocking now, soft knocks, gentle, like she doesn't want to scare me, like she really does need help. Please, I know you're in there, I know you can hear me. I'm so scared. I'm so lost. Won't you please help me? Just open the door, just for a moment, please. My hand is on the doorknob, every instinct screaming at me to open it, to help, to show compassion, but I remember the rules. I remember Frank's warnings. I remember the 17 dead. I remember that cold smile through my rearview mirror. The crying stops. Sudden silence that's somehow worse than the sound. And then I hear her voice again. Different now, deeper, older, layered with something that isn't human. You can't hide forever. You can't resist forever. Eventually, you'll open the door. Eventually, you'll help. Because that's what good people do. That's what makes you human, and that's what makes you mine. Footsteps walking away, fading into the distance. But not gone, never gone. Just waiting, watching, knowing that eventually, my compassion will override my fear. My humanity will override my survival instinct. Because that's what she counts on. That's what makes her perfect. She doesn't need to be fast or strong or clever. She just needs to be patient. She just needs to wait for us to be ourselves, to be kind, to be helpful, to be human. And when we finally are, when we finally give in to our better nature and open that door, she'll be waiting, with that cold smile, with that ancient hunger, with open arms ready to drag us down into the dark. The crying started again tonight, right outside my door, the same woman. The same desperate voice, the same plea for help, and my hand is on the doorknob again. One day soon, I'm going to turn it. I'm going to open that door, not because I'm stupid, not because I don't know better, but because the alternative is becoming something worse than dead. Becoming something that can hear suffering and do nothing. Becoming something that can walk past someone in distress without offering help. Becoming something that prioritizes survival over compassion. And maybe that's worse than whatever waits on the other side of this door. Maybe. Losing your humanity is a fate worse than death. Or maybe that's exactly what she wants me to think. Maybe that's the final trap. Making me believe that helping her is noble. That opening this door is the right thing to do. That dying is better than becoming cold. I don't know anymore. I don't know what's right. I don't know if there even is a right answer. All I know is that she's still out there, still crying, still asking for help, and I'm still standing here with my hand on the doorknob, trying to decide if I'm human enough to open it, or smart enough to walk away. Tentar novamente, Cláudia, é uma IA e pode cometer erros. Por favor, verifique as respostas.